In this video, we're going to be learning all about Angular directives. So directives are used to extend the functionality of HTML. So what exactly does extend the functionality of mean? Well, we can actually make new attributes and new elements using Angular for our HTML. So we've actually already been doing that, or we've actually already been using some custom attributes that were given to us by, our Angular source code. And that's these ng attributes, right? Anything that starts with ng was given to us by Angular. So ng app defines our app. Ng controller allows us to hook in our controller to a DOM element. Ng click allows us to define a function for whenever we click. And this ng model allows us to two-way data bind to a variable. So great, now that we know that we've been using these attributes already, how do we create some of our own? Well, that's actually pretty simple. I'm going to show you. I'm going to remove that semicolon, and I'm going to type in directive. And then the first parameter is going to be the name of our directive. So I'm going to say welcome message. Our second parameter is just going to be function. And then we are going to return, so like that, and have our first parameter be a restrict, an object. And then we're going to say restrict. And what are we going to be restricting? So this is actually where we specify what kind of thing we want to make. Do we want to make an attribute, an element? We could actually also make two more things, a class or a comment, but they're not as widely used. Actually, Angular advises us not to use them. So we do that by inputting a letter. So we can put in an A for attribute, an E for element, an M for comment, and a C for class. So for now, we're going to be making an element. So I'm going to leave it as an E. And now I'm going to also return a template. So that template is going to be div. So I'm saying, okay, I want a template that's div, and it's going to say in there, howdy, how are you? All right, I'm going to close that up. So we've just made our very first directive. I'm just going to put a semicolon on there. And we've named it welcome message. So welcome message is actually going to be an element. We've restricted it to an element with a template. Whenever we put it in, it's going to put in place div howdy, how are you? So let's actually implement this. So I'm going to type in welcome message here, save that out, refresh, and you'll notice it says howdy, how are you, right? So we put in our welcome message. So for you perceptive ones out there, you've realized we put in a welcome message and it translated it to snake case. So if we go back, it's not exactly that camel case that we named it. It's not welcome, camel case message. It's that snake case with the dash in between. So Angular actually converts it for us automatically. One more thing I want to note is when we're making a new element that we want to prefix it with, say, like some company initials or your name initials, because if HTML comes out with a new element and they actually name it that of your element, it'll break all of your code. So it's standard practice to prefix your elements that you made. So I'm going to say TB for Thomas Brown, welcome message, and then I'm going to change that here as well, TB welcome message, and I'm going to get rid of this. And now if we refresh it, once I finish, wow, I can catch a break. Okay, so now if we refresh it, we should have the same thing. And we do. Great. So we've just learned how to make our element. So how do we make an attribute? So we're going to go back, and instead of an E in this restrict, we're going to restrict it to an A for attribute. So now you'll notice, my web storm is saying, hey, I don't see this element anymore because we no longer can make it because we restricted it to an attribute. Now I'm going to say instead span. I'm going to say TB welcome message, and let's span. So now you'll notice I have that TB welcome message. If I did everything right, it should still show up. Cool. So that worked as well. So we could actually combine the two. We could say I want it to be an attribute and an element, an AE. I'm going to go and I'm going to, re-put in that TB welcome message. I'm going to save that out. And now I have two hello, how are yous, or howdy, how are yous. And that makes sense, right? Because I have an attribute, I can make it an attribute, and I can make it an element because I've restricted it to an A and an E. So that's how we create our, a very small custom directive, and how we've actually been using custom attributes from Angular already. And we're going to continue to use custom attributes from Angular because there's quite a few more, and they're actually very handy. So I hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next video.